All right, so follow me. Now, we're going to do some basic math and then some somewhat complex math. I'm going to throw some numbers out there at you, but they're not actual numbers. I'm just trying to make a point. So let's say 300,000 people purchased Pacquiao versus Chris Algieri for $70. I paid $70 for it. Why? It's because to watch in HD, $69.99. So let's just say everybody, 300,000 people, paid $70 for HD. That equals to $21 million in pay-per-view revenue. Now, give or take about 1 to 4 million given on if people decided to buy the standard definition stream. So, and let's take in whether it was shown in any movie theaters or anywhere throughout the world that people had to pay whatever outside of pay-per-view. Let's say another $1 to $5 million. Emmanuel Dapper Pacquiao, the current WBO 147-pound champion, was guaranteed $25 million plus, around 26 million to fight Chris Algieri, guaranteed. Just like Mayweather was guaranteed 32 million to fight Marcos Maidana. Let's look at Manny Pacquiao's last two pay-per-views. His fight with Timothy Bradley this year did somewhere between 800 to 900,000 pay-per-view buys. This pay-per-view is being rumored to be around 300,000 pay-per-view buys, and that's from Rick Glaser, the same person who released the Mayweather versus Maidana and other pay-per-view numbers that people have been running with. As far as like, oh, he said it, so you know where to get it from. And numbers are never usually confirmed or denied. Well, they're more denied than confirmed. But I'm gonna say this: the pay-per-view was a failure. We don't know what the contract deal is with the Venetian Resort. I'm seeing people saying the casino wasn't empty. The casino wasn't full, as far as you would think that Manny Pacquiao, being an Asian fighter, is going to bring fighters over. It's going to bring tourism over there to Macau, China, for people to vacation and gamble and such. Now, if that is true, you have to think, okay, let's say they make an extra 20 million. For this year, for just this year, between him and between Chris Algieri and Timothy Bradley. Either way you look at it, you have to think, well, Bob Arum and these guys had to know, that the low end could be pretty low. I had a media call with Bob Arum, Manny Pacquiao, and it's right here. Bob Arum said out of his mouth that he thought it was going to do 700,000 pay-per-view buys. So these are the type of videos that my naysayers avoid, because they say you're always praising Pacquiao. And no, I call the shit like I see it. The pay-per-view flopped. Did we not know it was going to flop? I predicted 400,000, but 300,000, woo. But look at it this way. That still makes Emmanuel Dapper Pacquiao number 2 in pay-per-view buys. Now, I'm talking about on an average. You add up Canelo Alvarez 2 pay-per-views, somewhere between 300 and 400,000 for both of them. Erislandy Lara being on the lower end, average of about what? 325,000 pay-per-view buys. Now I'm just throwing numbers out there. I'm just throwing numbers. Now his average is about 300,000, maybe 300,000 and a quarter pay-per-view buys for this year. Canelo in 2 fights. So whereas in Pacquiao, if he's got that 800 to 900 for Timothy Bradley, and then this 300,000, what does that make? Still about 600, 550, 600,000, maybe a little more. So when you look at Mayweather, when you look at Mayweather, and when you look at his pay-per-view buys, let's say 825 was what we was hearing for Mayweather versus Maidana 1, to 900, and then for Mayweather versus Maidana 2, somewhere between 800 and 950, somewhere around the same. So what's that? About 800,000 plus pay-per-view buys on an average. Who else has been on pay-per-view? Oh yeah, you got Miguel Cotto against Sergio Martinez. That was about the same numbers that Pacquiao versus Algieri is being rumored to have done. So I guess what I'm saying is this. Mayweather versus Pacquiao is closer than ever. But this pay-per-view may have put a dent in what could be negotiations, if they are really going on. You have to say, well, does it really matter? Because if you look at the situation Manny Pacquiao was in, he can only fight Timothy Bradley, Brandon Rios, now Canelo Alvarez, no Demetrius Andrade because he's over on. And I'm just throwing out names, Miguel Cotto, Juan Manuel Marquez. I'm talking about fighters that fight on HBO from 140 to 154 pounds, which is why Bob Arum, just in case the plans fall through with Mayweather, they'll have Manny Pacquiao, who has more fights available to him at 140 pounds rather than 147. Because if he does go on and fight Jesse Vargas, oh my God, please God, no, then you might have Manny Pacquiao versus Terrence Crawford, which is a very appealing and eye-catching fight for fans, especially the fact that Terrence Crawford has already fought at 140 pounds. Also, Terrence Crawford came into the ring at 150 plus, where Pacquiao came into the ring at just about 150, maybe against, or a little bit over against Chris Algieri. So it's a fight where Pacquiao's not fighting a smaller fighter. So, also moving on, I'm going to say this. Well, what about that 100 million and that 80 million? Does Pacquiao now still deserve that 80 million? I'm asking you this. Just like Mayweather needed Saul Canelo Alvarez to get that record, Mayweather needs Pacquiao to break that record. So you can say, oh, his star power is dropping. Yes, it is. Why? It's because nobody wanted to buy Chris Algieri. They were trying to sell this American dream, American boy story to us. It didn't work. And we don't actually, it may have worked. We don't know, if Chris Algieri wasn't appearing on all these, news shows and all this, targeted toward white America. We don't know. And, that's the stuff that mainstream media, the ESPN, the CBS, and the Yahoo Sports can't talk about. Chris Algieri was being marketed toward white America. And there's nothing wrong with saying it. It's not nothing wrong with it. That's what you do. So I say this. What are you going to be doing on May the 2nd, 2015, if the fight happens? Because I hear some of the dumbest shit sometimes, man. I hear people saying, like, I ain't going. If they fight, they should have done it sooner. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, what's going to happen when you go to the gas station? You're going to hear that chatter or people on the phone like, yo, I got to get ready for this fight. What's going to be going on at the supermarket, or at the market, from the demographic of age 15 to about 44? Men. They're going to be getting all their shit ready for the fight parties that they're going to be having. What about the clothing stores? What about all the people getting their fresh outfits because they know if Mayweather versus Pacquiao is to happen on May the 2nd, that will be the official start of the summer? You know how that's going to kick off the summer. What about the after parties at all the bars throughout the world? Mayweather versus Madonna after party. What about all the different theaters that will be showing the fight? And I'm asking you, there are fans, literally, listen to me, there are fans saying, I'm not watching it, I won't watch it. What you going to do when your girlfriend or your wife say, all right, babe, I'm going to go out with the girls, we're going to watch the fight. You be like, I ain't going. I'm going to play some Advanced Warfare, and I'm going to watch some Life Below Zero on Nat Geo channel. Not going. I ask myself, and I think, well, are you not going to buy the fight? They can get $100 from me for the fight. Here's a little bit more math that I did. Oh, I don't even have to do it. I don't even have to, do it. Let's say they charge $100 for Mayweather versus Pacquiao. And let's say it does 2 million pay-per-view buys, not 2.2, not 2. Just 2 million pay-per-view buys. That is $200 million in revenue. So there you have to think, well, what arena is it going to be in? If it's in front of 100,000, as it should be in Cowboy Stadium, as it should be. It's going to be the most expensive ticket sales of all time, and not to mention the revenue it's going to bring in from tickets. Maybe 150 million right there. We already have the 350 million. All the sponsorship deals, and all the high fives and the kudos for people that can say, I made Mayweather versus Pacquiao. It hasn't even become about the negotiations anymore when it comes to what I'm saying is it's like a pride thing I've been noticing that's been going on from the interviews and what I've been reading is that you got these executives that want to say like, I made it happen. It was me. I made it happen. And if I'm a promoter I want to be a part of. I want to let everybody know. Yeah, I was the one that got it done. That guy was the one that got it done. Leslie Munoz, Moonves wants to be the one. That's the guy that had a CBS, you know. Then they had a Showtime as the guy Matthew Blank, and then you got Steven Espinoza. So they all want to be a part of. I want to be the guy to get it done. I say this. It would be Floyd Mayweather's biggest payday. It would be Manny Pacquiao's biggest payday. It will be Bob Arum's biggest payday. It will be Oscar De La Hoya's biggest payday. It will be Bob Arum's biggest payday. Leonard Ellaby, if he's still around, it'll be his biggest payday. Roger Mayweather, Floyd Sr., their biggest paydays. Freddie Roach's biggest paydays. It's too much money for egos just to leave it out there. It's too. Everybody involved will make somewhere between 2 to 4 times what they've made previously in their career. If it's true that Al Heyman, according to his exclusive advisory agreement, takes 15%, Mayweather gets 100 million. That 15%, that's 15 million. That's 15 million for him right there. Not to mention whatever money he gets, you know. But now, this is one of them situations with the pay-per-view buys. What are people going to say? You know they're going to say, he don't deserve the fight. He can't even. Come on, guys. It's not even about that anymore. I'm sick. I'm not making, like, the blame and all that shit anymore. You know, there's so many people out there that when I read the comments, and I do, like, take time, a couple hours a day to read all my comments, people say, he's always taking up for him. He's always taking up, you know, he don't never point out Pacquiao faults. I don't care about none of that shit no more. You know, but let it be known, if Mayweather go out there and start doing some dumb shit again, of course I'm going to report on it. You know? Of course I'm going to report on it, but as far as the fight being made, it's just, you know, tired. I'm sick of just talking about, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And the fans are fueling it because there's a certain, I feel fans are being brainwashed to an extent where you got Mayweather fans, hardcore Mayweather fans, that are actually saying, don't fight him. You don't need to fight him. Why would you fight him? He don't bring in a money. This is boxing. And I've been thinking to myself, like, what? When has this ever happened throughout the history of any sport? Like, no, you don't have to. He don't bring in the money. You black. It's like, what? What happened to the pride of the sport of boxing? You know, Mayweather cannot ride off into the sunset without fighting Emmanuel Dapper-Dran Pacquiao. He cannot go on with his life. The questions, why would you do that to yourself as a person? Think about it, for the rest of your life. Everybody's going to be asking you, like, why do you never fought Pacquiao? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't the same thing for Pacquiao? You know, why would you do that to yourself? You know, you can't think that far in ahead to know, like, you got to get it out of the way. He calls himself TBE. That's up for debate. Some people even say his resume is bullshit. Now, no, it is not. It is not. Even though he hasn't fought the best of the weight division at that time, majority, put it this way, his resume is more than credible. But when you look at the fighters and the tests he could have taken in the fight he fights, he can or could have made, his career now relies on numbers and money. So therefore, if he doesn't bring in the numbers or the money, or if he's not undefeated anymore, the marketability goes down, or does it? When Oscar De La Hoya got defeated, he still kept selling pay-per-views, millions at a time. He would even fight on HBO every now and then, you know, to get ready for a pay-per-view. So it's hard for me to believe that Mayweather really in his head does not want to fight. Let me just point that out. It's just, you know, I can't think that nobody's just that close to it. Like, I can't. Now, as far as the money is concerned, there's too much money being thrown around out there. I say this, listen, if it's $200 million in the pot, I say 70 million for Pacquiao, 130 for Mayweather. Maybe. Could that happen? I think it should. We don't know if it's exactly $200 million in the pot. But I'm saying this, it's like this. Pacquiao's in a situation, that was nasty. Pacquiao's in a situation where he can't fight Danny Garcia. He can't fight Keith Thurman. He can't fight Marcos Maidana, Robert Guerrero, or Amir Khan. Devin Alexander showing Porter. Because he's in a situation where his promoter has been having a non-working relationship with the promoter. And listen, Al Heyman, they don't have a working relationship unless it's forced. And you have to think, whose fault is this really? We should know from the Richard Schaefer, Oscar De La Hoya situation that Al Heyman and Richard Schaefer wanted to go on to their own, thing. And nobody thought that Richard Schaefer would be going, I'm guessing, because they never had any plan. Remember, Richard Schaefer once said out of his own mouth, and him and Al Heyman, were tight in cahoots. And according to a main event lawsuit against Al Heyman at the time, it's no more. It was documented, and it's still documented, that Al Heyman and Schaefer were trying to get the company away from the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. So also, what does that mean? That means that, well, if Richard Schaefer said he had no interest on ever working with Bob Arum, then go up on a podium at a post-fight press conference or a press conference and go into this speech about basically trying to get the MGM Grand to ban Bob Arum. I'm thinking, well, with this petty shit, at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want about TstreeT. You take this person's side, you take this side. I'm tired of it. I'm just tired. I just want the fight to happen. And it's like, why, why? And I have to look at, okay, well, who's at the top of the food chain? And it's Floyd Money Mayweather. If Pacquiao doesn't take the fight, or some deal falls through, Mayweather needs to go out into the media. Al Heyman needs to talk to him and say, listen, get this shit off your back. They fucked up the deal. So we're going to put together a press conference, and we're going to say, listen, Mayweather, tell them, listen, we tried to make the fight. We offered them this. They did not take it, All that, if Mayweather used that avenue of speaking to the fans and not always the ignorance of the social media, the things he see, for example, what if Al Heyman just came out and had a press conference and told us what his plans are, or had somebody come out and with a press conference and tell us what the plans are? Then we won't have to assume shit, right? This man just operating in the shadows and all this stealth, and we looking like, yo, what is going on? I say this, if you don't know, I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live with Real Combat Media. I cover every single major fight live. This is going to be the first video I do on the numbers. Most likely I'll be doing another one maybe about next week around this time, maybe a little bit sooner. The numbers are unofficial, of course, but like I said, in my opinion, Rick Glaser is a very credible source, because he's the one that put the numbers out there before, for the last several fights. So it's like, But 300,000 pay-per-view buys is believable. It's very believable. I mean, it's Chris Algieri, Maybe his fights will sell better if he's out of the cage, I think. Maybe if he gets out of the cage. Maybe. Also, streaming is running rampant. Streaming is getting out of control. Why? It's because these promoters don't know that in this age, this social media and technology age, that they are destroying the sports, and fans are saying, I'm not paying for it anymore. What? And it's getting worse. We've had more pay-per-views this year than I can remember in history since I've been watching boxing. You got, what was the first one? You got Canelo versus Angulo. You got Pacquiao versus Bradley. You got Mayweather versus Maidana. One. Then you got Cotto versus Martinez. In July, you got Canelo versus Lara. And then September, you got Mayweather versus Maidana 2. And now Pacquiao. 7 pay-per-views this year. 7. My cable bill has been outrageous. I look at it like this. If Mayweather versus Amir Khan happens, I told you what I was going to do. And there's no disrespect to Amir Khan or anything like that. Well, first, he's got to get past Devin Alexander. For some reason, I feel like he's not going to do it. For some reason, man. I'm not. People say you hate on Khan. I'm not. I'm just saying something don't seem right, man. It seemed like when things were supposed to start going good for Khan, and he starts running his mouth, he ended up getting beat up. TstreeT Controversy, TstreeT Controversy. Please subscribe. Real Combat Media. All my videos, boxing interviews, media calls, press conferences, weigh-ins down below. 2015 is going to be a very, very monstrous year for me. I'm working literally around the clock to make sure I start January the 1st the right way. TstreeT Controversy, TstreeT Controversy Live.